Hello, and thank you all for your attention. It is absolutely my pleasure to share with you tonight the research that I do and why I find it so much fun and so exciting. So I am a biomedical engineer, and in my opinion, it's one of the best professions on the planet. So when I was in 5th grade, I did one of these career development assignments from Mrs. Hansen, and she truly changed my life. Biomedical engineering, what I wrote in that report a couple of decades ago, is the merger of science, math, engineering, and medicine. And when I read about what they do for a living, I found the perfect profession for me. And I absolutely love what I do. It's the culmination of collaboration and interdisciplinary research. As a graduate student, I was exploring different areas and what did I really want to specialize in. And with my roots being in electrical engineering, I was very drawn to the nervous system, in particular the brain and the visual system. And the reason for that is it is absolutely astounding how much visual information we take in all the time, so accurately and so quickly. And most of us, luckily, take this completely for granted. However, there are a good portion of the population that have vision problems. And you may want to take a minute and think about what life would be like if you don't have good vision. Now, all of us could push ourselves to the limit. And let's say you were to read a book for 10 hours straight, or you were to attempt to work on a computer for 9 or 10 hours. You would all experience what the cat in the hat experiences here in this picture, and you would feel visual fatigue and strain. However, what if that happened in just a mere few minutes? Imagine what your life would be like if you had to try to read or work when you constantly had so much pressure and eye strain and fatigue. One of the key things that my lab is focused on learning about and trying to use innovation and collaborations to really move this field forward is the binocular dysfunction known as convergence insufficiency. So what is that? Well, it's a problem with doing near work. So patients that have convergence insufficiency, or CI, have a reduced ability to do work at near, such as reading and computer work. Their symptoms include double and blurred vision, headaches, vision strain, and fatigue. This is particularly problematic for young kids because as they're learning to read, this is the only visual environment they've ever known. So they don't know that they have a vision problem. And to them, this is quote unquote normal. The problem is they are not going to fall in love with learning and reading. And this is one of the jobs that some of my clinical collaborators, specifically Dr. Scheinman, is trying to make the public aware of, okay? Now, in terms of the percentage of people that have it, it's present in about 4 to 8% of the general population, which is about 12 to 24 million. Interestingly, children with attention deficit disorders are 3 times more likely to have this vision problem. And if you've had a brain injury, such as a sports concussion or a car accident, or you've had a blast injury from war, then you are between 25 and 40, maybe even 50% more likely to have this particular binocular dysfunction. The good news is vision therapy, which is a repetitive eye movement exercise, works very well. However, we don't really know why it works. So just like many of us might go for physical therapy or occupational therapy, you do repetitive movements over and over and over again. And for vision therapy in particular, it does lead to a sustained reduction in vision symptoms, at least 1 year post-therapy. So that suggests to us that there's something changing in the brain. So my team and I are funded through the National Institutes of Health. And what we're doing is we're taking a series of baseline measurements where we're doing clinical symptoms and parameters, eye movements, and functional imaging. Then we're having participants do 6 weeks of vision therapy, which is 12 hours in the office and another 6 hours at home. And then we're repeating those measurements, and we're going to compare the after data to the before. And the reason we want to do this is we want to understand what precisely is going on with the therapy. How is the brain changing to lead to this long-term sustained effect? Why? Well, we want to know why, because if we don't understand how exactly this therapy is working, then we don't have any hope to try and make it better or more effective, both in terms of time as well as cost. So let's take a look at what some eye movements look like from people that have normal vision and people that have convergence insufficiency. Here what you're seeing is somebody going cross-eyed. Okay? Each colored trace is an eye movement, from somebody looking at a target in the distance and then moving inward or looking at a target close to them. And you can see somebody with normal binocular vision can go to the next target very quickly and definitely within a half a second. However, a patient with convergence insufficiency, you can see their eye movements, and again, that's each colored trace is an eye movement from the same patient, takes substantially longer. And it can take up to 2 seconds to make this eye movement, which makes sense that they're reporting symptoms such as double vision. However, if you take that exact same patient and put them through vision therapy, their eye movements begin to look like this. And you can see, although they're not quite the same as somebody with normal binocular vision, they're much closer. And they're able to make those movements in a much shorter amount of time, and there's a lot less variance or variability compared to their pre-therapy data. Now, in addition, that was patients without any brain injury. I'm working with Dr. Scheinman and the Eye Institute in Philadelphia, specifically Salus University, and we're also conducting studies on patients with concussion. And this is becoming more and more problematic, especially for young athletes who suffer concussions, especially repetitive concussions. What you're seeing here is 2 different patients, and these eye movements are actually even worse than those in the previous slide. Subject S5 has extremely slow eye movements, and subject S3 can initially do the movements, but you can see as the session progresses, they actually make the movement and then lose the target, so they go back to seeing double. However, these same patients, after therapy, start looking much more similar to the binocular normal controls. So again, the therapy is working quite well, but the question again is why? So for that, I started collaborating with one of the NJIT professors, Dr. Bharat Biswal, who's a distinguished professor in the Department of Biomedical Engineering. And he taught me everything I know about functional MRI. And we basically have 3 theories that we're beginning to have data to support why vision therapy may be leading to a sustained reduction in visual symptoms. The first idea is this concept of neural synchronization. We have these neurons, which are brain cells in the brain, that are firing action potentials or giving off electricity. And it could be that they're all firing out of phase from each other. And really what they need is a good conductor, similar to somebody that's conducting an orchestra, to get those signals back in synchrony with each other. So perhaps one of the things or the concepts as to why therapy is working is it's actually improving the synchronization of the action potentials of the brain cells. Another theory we have, and again, this is data that we're actively collecting right now, is that you may have a group of cells in the brain that are responsible for this task, and through therapy actually kind of coerces cells that are nearby through neuronal recruitment to convince them to come along and try to do this task. So more cells participate, and that might be what's leading to the sustained reduction in vision symptoms. The third concept is an area that Dr. Biswal is very well renowned for, and it's this concept of functional connectivity. And what this concept is about is it's not just which areas of the brain are activated, it's how those different areas within the brain are talking to each other, how they're collaborating or integrating with one another. So it could be that before therapy, this interaction between sites is very poor and is strengthened after therapy. So this is data that we are actively collecting, and we should hopefully have a statistically powered result within the next 2 to 3 years. Now, another study, and this gets into this idea of innovation and collaboration, which is, again, one of the key things I absolutely love about my job. Dr. Scheinman, who is, again, the primary clinical collaborator on the team, he ran this NIH, National Institute of Health study, where many different medical centers participated in a randomized clinical trial. And one of their key outcome measures was how successful was vision therapy in children without brain injury. And what they found is that office-based therapy was successful in about 73% of children who participated in the study. What is also very, very interesting about their work is they also investigated 2 types of home-based therapies and a placebo or a sham therapy. And another key finding of their study is that the home therapy was no more effective than placebo. And that was a little baffling at first, because home therapy is actually one of the most common prescribed remedies to try to fix this. And basically what their study is showing is that it doesn't really work. So a lot of the clinicians kind of shook their head and said, that's interesting. Well, I don't know about you, but I have exercise equipment at home that's gathering dust. And it could possibly be that one of the reasons why the home therapy doesn't work is due to lack of patient compliance. It's just very boring. Another possible reason it may not be working is that although the patients are trying to do it accurately at home, they may not be doing it correctly, and they don't even realize that they're doing it wrong because they don't have a therapist with them to correct them. Just like an athletic trainer would be helping you make sure you do the right exercises, a vision therapist would help you to make sure you do the eye movement exercises correctly. So we took all of this knowledge together, and again, one of the great things about working with the technology school is I've got access to a lot of very fun, creative students from all different disciplines. So I wanted to introduce our team, and you'll see we're a wide diversity group. We have biomedical engineers, optometry students and clinicians, sport medicine doctors. We're working with CHOP, which is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We are working with our gaming design department here in NJIT, vision scientists, psychologists, as well as those in functional imaging. And one of the things that we are hopeful for this particular project is we would like to come up with a way to do vision therapy at home that's fun. And it wouldn't be difficult or challenging to do. So our question, or the challenge that we are posed with, is can we come up with home vision therapy that could be as effective as office-based therapy? That's our question. So I have 2 children, Christian, who's 12, and Ariana, who's 6, and both of them love video games. And I can tell you as a parent, it is not hard whatsoever to get your kids to play video games. So with video games, there's a lot of innovation that can be done. So what we decided to investigate is what if, instead of using a video controller, which is hand motions, could we take a virtual reality game and use that as the therapy? So what John Vito and his team of biomedical engineers did is they looked at the Oculus Rift and they integrated eye tracking in it using the Raspberry Pi as well as the Pi Noir cameras. And then they worked with Rob Goya, who is a gaming design student, to integrate his video game with the biomedical engineer's eye tracking and the vision science provided by myself and my clinical collaborator, Dr. Scheinman. Okay? And the concept was, if we took these 3 fields and used innovation and collaboration, could we come up with a fun video game that could be used at the home for vision therapy? Okay? So this is an example of one of Rob's 3D animations. And what you see here is if a patient tries to look at an image in the game and they're not able to correctly track it, it'll appear double. However, a binocularly normal control will see it enlarging and clear. And what we're going to do is we're going to give the patient visual as well as auditory cues to let them know whether or not they're accurately tracking. Okay? This is a schematic of our entire system, and the idea will be that a kid would actually be playing a video game for therapy. So what we were hoping to do is actually make Dr. Scheinman's dream come true. And as an optometrist, he said, I want to be the favorite doctor. And I said, oh yeah, how's that? He says, I want to be the doctor that kids love to come to because I'm going to be writing prescriptions for them to play video games. So in order for them to get better, they're going to have to play a video game every day, 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. So moving forward, what my team and I are hoping to do is we're going to take our game and we're going to test it out at CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philly, with Dr. Tina Master, who is the director of their concussion research, and see if our video game is as effective as office-based therapy, and then how to improve upon it. And our hope is this innovation and collaboration will actually help people by doing it in the comfort of their home, having it be personalized to what their visual system needs, and hopefully also being cost-effective. Now, we're not intending to replace the office-based therapy, but what we're hoping to do is add it as a way to augment it. So, thank you for your attention.